What's up, guys? This week's conversation is all about imposter syndrome. So if you've ever felt like, who am I to be doing this? This episode is going to be for you. I think a lot of times we feel this when we're growing into a new identity and we feel like the person we've been in the past is not capable or is not qualified enough to be who we want to become. And I think when we get to that point, we start to find ourselves comparing to other people like, well, there's somebody that's going to be more qualified for this than I am. Or one day they'll figure out that I'm a fraud or something. And it's like, when you're not, but maybe you're just learning and you're just a beginner and that's okay. I often find with imposter syndrome, it's way better to not try to see yourself as this perfect expert authority and be very honest with the people around you. Like, hey, I'm trying something new, and document like what you're experiencing rather than tell like an authority of how you're experiencing this new shift in your life. I think that really connects people to you. So whether it's a client or an audience that you're trying to build, it really helps people understand where you're coming from, and it builds a lot of trust. And this type of feeling, it really only shows up when you are expanding and when you are pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So that's a really good sign. From a person who has pushed themselves out of their comfort zone many, many times, at first it always feels scary, and I will have this feeling of doubt, like, should I really be doing this? Should I really be trying this? But then like a couple years later, I'll be like, oh yeah, I was totally capable of doing that. And it's just a fear of not being enough or a fear of not being capable that makes you feel like that. And so you want to not necessarily push through in a negative way through that feeling, but just keep meeting with that feeling and saying like, thank you for being here. I get that you're worried, but I also believe I'm capable of moving past this feeling, and keep trying and keep learning and keep growing. From a neuroscience-based perspective, our brain is very wired for what's familiar, and it makes us feel safe to be in the familiar. It makes us feel safe to be in our comfort zone. Anytime we push outside that box, alarm bells start to ring inside of our brain like, oh, no, you can't do that. You're not good enough for that. We've never tried that before. That could hurt us in some way. And it just sends a lot of fear through your body, but it's not because you're not capable. It's just because it's a bit unfamiliar to you. Because to your nervous system, growth will feel like danger. It doesn't necessarily feel comfortable. And I also think that's like a good way to notice when you're growing in any capacity, whether it's imposter syndrome or just in any area of your life. If you're starting to feel like, oh my God, this is a little bit out of my comfort zone, that's good. It means you're growing. And a lot of times, I've talked about this before, but you just don't feel ready before you start pretty much anything. I think people who have kids will know that. Like, you never really felt ready to have kids, but then you had a kid and then you learned. And so when you start just taking those action steps, your brain and your body are going to reorganize the nervous system around all of your new action steps until it starts to feel comfortable. So the first few times you do something, it's going to feel weird. You're going to feel like an imposter for sure, but just know that feeling isn't going to last, and allow it to just come up and let it go. And I really feel like imposter syndrome is just like this argument between your old identity and your new identity until you can really fully step into your new identity comfortably. With that, like, I know there's this idea of fake it till you make it, and I think that can really, really help. But the better way to do that is to actually do like visualization practices where you feel how it feels to be that version of yourself. Like, go into a meditation. I'll probably make one to go along with this podcast, but like, go into a meditation where you imagine what it would be like to be the version of you that's comfortable in this identity. How would you feel about money? How would you feel about time? How would you feel about your creativity? How would you operate in general? And when you can start to feel the way that feels in your body, when it happens in real life, it will feel a lot more normal and natural to you than it would if you were faking it till you make it and not really training your brain to be comfortable in that position. So I really think that visualization is extremely helpful when you're shifting identities, and I think that helps you more than just like faking it till you make it, because then you start to feel like a fraud, and that's when imposter syndrome can kind of come in and take over your internal world. So a couple ways to reframe some of these thoughts in your mind is to look at the following feelings that come up usually during imposter syndrome. So one of the big ones is, I'm not qualified enough for this. But what you can flip that to is, I'm learning as I grow. Another one is, other people are better at this than me. But I like to see this perspective that everybody is an individual with completely different backgrounds and experiences. So nobody has your voice or your story. So other people might be more experienced than you, sure, but they don't have the exact experiences and life lessons that you have. No one has your voice or your story. Another thing for imposter syndrome is that, like, a lot of times we're afraid to fail publicly, but I think when you don't try to be an authority, that makes it a little bit easier. And then you can look at it from, every attempt builds the skill. Every attempt makes me more comfortable and confident. Every attempt, like, it's also building up like a period of time, like a little storyline for the people who are rooting for you, where they'll see maybe the times where it didn't quite work out for you. And yes, that's hard to experience and feel, like this feeling of like rejection or not enoughness, but then they'll see you overcome it later on, and that's really inspiring for people. So don't be afraid to fail in public, and don't be afraid to like not be perfect. If you can remove your ego and just like live kind of like a child would, I think that that is so beautiful, because you worry more about your experience and the way that things feel than how they look. And if you go that route, you'll end up probably getting the life that looks good too, because you're doing it based off of what's internal instead of what's external. The last like little reframe is like, I don't belong here, but that is like an old identity thing. So expansion is always going to feel a little bit weird at first. And you just need to remind yourself that like, this is a new position for me. This is a new step for me, and I'm not going to feel comfortable right away, but we'll get there. Okay. We're going to go through some journal prompts now, so pull out your journals, and these should help you build some confidence with that imposter syndrome feeling. So the first question is, what new level am I stepping into that my brain isn't used to yet? And you can know that by when your brain starts to freak out and is like, oh, I'm not that person. I also want you to kind of look at like, what old identity might need to die for me to step into this new version of myself? Like, where is the argument happening between my old self and my new self? And do I still want to carry the traits of that old identity, or am I ready to let them go and step into my new identity? Number 2, this one's going to help you prove that you can do this. Where have I already grown that once felt scary, but now it feels totally normal? Number 3, what proof do I have that I'm capable of learning and adapting? How many times have you been resourceful before? How many times have you learned a new skill before? I'm sure many. I really think that going back through your past accomplishments and past successes and even past failures that taught you something is a really, really helpful way to build that resilience in your brain of like, I'm capable of this, even if I don't feel like I am in this moment. When you're comparing yourself to other people that maybe have more experience than you or in that same industry as you, I want you to ask yourself, and you can journal this, whose success triggers me? And what does it show me that I want? You know, is it the attention that they're getting? Is it the money and the clients that they're getting? Is it the audience? Like, what are the things that they have that are inspiring you and that maybe you even feel jealous of? Because like, as we talked about in the jealousy episode, a lot of this is just showing you what you want, and you can find your own individual way of getting that. And then this one, I want you to think of it in 2 perspectives. So the first perspective is, what would future me thank me for doing scared right now? And to help remind you of your own resilience, I want you to think of something that you would thank your past self for doing that they were very scared to do. And that's like a good gratitude practice too, of like looking back at past versions of you and being like, oh my God, thank you for taking that career path, or thank you for breaking up with that person, or thank you for doing this hard, scary thing that made my life so much better in the future when I didn't feel ready for it yet. There's got to be a few times in your life that that's happened. So definitely check back with that. Okay, a few little like reminders that I want to give you on the way out is that you are supported and divinely guided through all of your transitions in life. I believe that so strongly from a spiritual perspective. So when you are becoming somebody new and shifting your identity, I want you to like remind yourself that you belong even when you're growing and even when you're imperfect, even when you're not there yet. You are becoming who you dreamed of, and you're building confidence and resilience in the process so that when you are finally the person that you dreamed of being, you can hold your life without a bunch of self-doubt and worry that you're going to lose it. You have built the skills inside of you to maintain that life. Discomfort is always going to equal expansion. So when you are reaching a new level and pushing yourself up a little bit higher in a little bit different direction, you're going to be growing. You're going to feel that discomfort. I mean, think about how many people get like growing pains growing up or stretch marks or things like that. It's like a very normal part of transitioning into a new era of your life. And I will say too, the last thing is that doing courageous things that feel really scary and hard, but taking those actions build your confidence and your trust in yourself. The more you say to yourself, I can't do it, I'm not even going to try, the less you trust yourself long term, because you just don't think that you're going to do it or follow through with it. So it's better to do it imperfect and give it a shot than to never do it at all. All right, that's everything for this week. I love you guys. I will see you next week. I don't know off the top of my head which one's going to be posted next week, but it looks like it's going to be on intuition and overthinking. So I'll see you then. Love you guys.